Are you recording?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's demo, Building Sustainable and Scalable Automation Scripts Using Quantum and Perfecto. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a couple housekeeping items for our viewers. First, at the bottom of your audience console, you'll find a number of widgets for questions and additional resources. When you have questions for the presenter during the demo, click on the Q&A widget and submit your question. We will answer as many questions as possible at the end of the webcast, and if we run out of time, we'll get back to you via email. Also, if you need any tech support during the demo, please use the help option. With that, I'll introduce our presenter for today's broadcast, Leslie Tan, Senior Sales Engineer here at Perfecto by Perforce. Leslie, thanks for joining us on today's broadcast.
Thank you so much, and hello to everyone out there. Today we're going to be talking about building sustainable and scalable automation scripts using Quantum in conjunction with the Perfecto Quality Lab. Thank you all for joining today. Do appreciate your time. So today's agenda, a quick intro to Quantum, definitely a live demo because that's what I like doing, and then we'll follow up with some summary and questions and answers. So test automation with Quantum. What is Quantum? Quantum is Perfecto's contribution to the open source community with an automation framework. So the idea here is folks may opt to use a bunch of different frameworks that are out there, open source or proprietary. But the idea is we wanted to introduce something that would get someone that's new to automation or even seasoned with automation to be able to get up and running with a framework that has all of the pre-built commands that we would normally associate with using Perfecto, especially around network virtualization. So Quantum is designed to give a team really everything it needs: easy test creation, built-in execution, reporting, and data modules. And what Quantum really enables you to do really is, I think, for the key piece that we talk about when we talk about Perfecto is the CELA concept, the Creation, Execution, Lab, and Analytics. So this piece predominantly addresses the C piece, the creation piece. So being able to do test creations, being able to look at some of the analytics within the lab, being able to look at a live preview while your test is underway such that you can see what the automation is actually doing. So. And then obviously there's a Perfecto predefined BDD steps in there, which obviously makes a lot of the utility writing a little bit easier to do. So without further ado, let me jump right into the live demo and show you what the Quantum with Java actually looks like. Let me share my screen. So for those of you that haven't seen what we call the CQL, the Quality Lab, this is what it would look like the first time you log into the system. I'm not going to go into too much over here, but one of the things I wanted to cover really is the concept of we're trying to address automation today. If you're not familiar with it, there are other webinars that talk about how to open a web session and basically call out a specific browser OS combination that you would like to test. So in this case, if you're looking at, from a web session perspective, I wanted to test, say, for example, Windows 10 against Chrome 79 at a specific resolution within a specific country. Now, the idea here really is what I use this screen for is to go get the capabilities to insert into my automation code. So at the bottom over here, you'll see this view capabilities. These are the desired capabilities that I'm going to use within my automation code in order to achieve the level of automation that I want. So here you'll see I'm actually, for this particular device, I'm calling out Windows 10, Chrome 79 US East at a specific resolution. So that's what I'm gathering out of this particular screen. And the nice thing is being able to copy this to a clipboard and subsequently pasting it into my Quantum code, my Java code within the Quantum framework, and then subsequently being able to run it. So too with Android and iOS devices, being able to say, I want, for example, this iPhone 7 here, being able to say, show me the capabilities behind it. Again, you'll see I have specific capabilities that are required. In this case, I'm going to be using Java today that are required within the code itself in order to make the automation work. So that's the piece over here in terms of capabilities that need to be translated into the actual Java code itself when I pull up Quantum. I'm going to go back into the lab real quick. Here we are. So let me go ahead and pull up my my IDE. So for those of you all that are familiar with Eclipse, that's what I happen to be using today. That's not to say that other IDEs can't be used, Quantum is very flexible in that nature, so I actually have used it within other IDs itself. So let's take a quick look-see at the code over here. So you see that I've got a bunch of, obviously I've got my package, but I think one of the things I want to emphasize on is, I'm using the Reportium client, for example. So you see me import some of that off the Perfecto Reportium client base. And the key piece to remember over here is some of the pieces may not necessarily be needed. Some of them are, and the ones that absolutely are the ones I do have highlighted over there. And then I've got a bunch of Java utilities that would certainly make this that are needed in order to make this test work. So in case you're wondering, this is a test of the Boston Globe, my local newspaper, being able to test whether their site is responsive to both the Safari browser inside of an iOS device. In this case, I've selected an iPhone 7, as well as an Android device, Chrome within an Android device. And then I've also selected a variety of desktop browser OS combinations to test again. So you'll see I've got my remote web driver over here. I've got my public class. A couple of things, and I've actually commented out over here a number of times to actually do the retry, what my retry interval is in milliseconds. Here you'll see 15,000. So the first thing I'll do is do my remote web driver, create driver string. I'm telling it my target environment. Don't forget to throw a malform URL exception if I do run into it. The first instance I have here is my two mobile devices. So you'll see here I've got an iPhone 7, iOS 12.1.2. I purposely selected a device in the UK just to show you that we're still capable of having that phone reach across the pond if you're here in the U.S. Back to the Boston Globe site here in the U.S. The unique pieces that are required here, obviously platform name, platform version, location of the device, resolution, who the manufacturer is, what the model is, and the most important one of all, a device ID. I'm specifically calling that device because that's the one I want to use. There's another way of doing it, and I'll show that to you a little later on within the capabilities, so I can say, go select for me the next available iOS device that is running version 12.1.2 or 13 or 11 or whatever the iOS variation you're looking for. So to over here, I've got a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. It's actually a Galaxy Note 9. Device ID, specific resolution, and who the manufacturer is. So those are going to call the Safari browser inside of the iPhone and the Chrome browser inside of the Galaxy. As I mentioned earlier on, this is a test for the responsiveness of the Boston Globe site. So you'll see over here I'm actually going out, and my first case is the Windows Chrome latest. The nice thing about being able to do this in here is I can say Windows 10, Chrome latest, 1280 by 1024. And again, as you saw earlier on, I'm calling it in the US East. So here you see a variety of Chrome latest, latest -1, latest -2. And the reason I do that is Chrome and Firefox release on average 42 to 46 days, and I can never quite remember what the latest version is. So this is sort of the lazy way out. I can certainly come in here and say, how about we use 79? That'll work too, as the latest version as I believe it. And then over here, you notice I said Chrome latest -3, but again, I'm using 76 in there just to reference a variation of the Chrome version. And then my next sets really are Windows 8.1 with the same variation selection here. Again, Chrome latest, latest -1, latest -2, and latest -3. The couple of key pieces that are required within the Quantum framework, in this case I'm still using Java, is the security token, the ability to pass that into the Perfecto lab as a means of authentication. And how you get that, if you're unclear about it, is when you sign into your Perfecto quality lab, if you click down under your name, you'll see that there's a spot here called My Security Token. And what happens is you can either generate a new security token or copy the existing one into the clipboard and basically come back into your IDE and paste it in here. So that's where you get your security token capabilities, because obviously without that there's no way to authenticate your validity to use the lab itself. New command timeout is set for 30 seconds. WinTunnel personas. WinTunnel is the start of the network virtualization for some of these phones if I was actually running a test using a native or a hybrid app. The idea here behind the WinTunnel persona, in this case Georgia, is to go from Wi-Fi, say for example if I'm in a building, I've stepped into an elevator and now it's drop to a 4G connection or a 3G connection, and then I'm walking out into the street, and now I've lost my. If you've got a hybrid or a native app, and you wanted to test it against network coverage, that's certainly one of the capabilities you would call. And then here I've got a few reporting capabilities that I want video capture set for. So I've got my script name, and I've got video report and output report set to true. Again, these are things that you can toggle on and off within the Quantum framework that says, okay, so if you want to see what the test results look like and you want to capture both the video output within the test results, certainly go ahead and toggle these things to be true. Over here, I've got a couple of other things. Tunnel ID. One of the things that we have is if you're using the Perfecto Connect, the user instantiated TLS tunnel, in order to get to resources behind your firewall. So say, for example, you're testing dev.mycompany.com or uat.mycompany.com. This is where you would actually enter the tunnel ID had you spun up a Perfecto Connect tunnel. And so in here, I'm doing a couple of things. I'm instantiating my WebDriver against my demonstration environment. So I've got the security token, and that security token is obviously enabled for my demo environment, demo.perfectomobile.com. And then I've done a couple of other things here just to show what's going on under the covers, right? So I've got my prints that tell me what actually is going on, a small piece of catch, try, exceptions, and what the code actually does. So think of the four essential pieces. The security token, the desired capability. Do I want a mobile device and the associated browser with it, or do I want a desktop browser OS combination, which I've shown you how that actually works. So the variables I intend to enter data into are homepage, zip code, select length of the trial itself, and enter some details like where I want my newspaper shipped to. I know in this day and age, newspapers, right? So here we go. So my open homepage actually goes out to subscribe.bostonglobe.com. And you notice I'm also doing things like reporting client step n such that I get to see the individual steps within the report itself. I know this is a Quantum and Java interaction, but I think it's important that we write the code correctly such that when we do go into our test results, we can actually see meaningful steps within the test report itself. Right? So here I've entered the Boston area zip code 02110. As you can see, I'm doing a find by element against the next path. I'm entering the zip code. I'm clicking on the submit button. And then over here, I'm looking for a subscription link for the trial. I'm going to select the first one in the array, which is a 7-day trial. Again, you notice that the common theme here is I'm taking screenshots because I want to see what that looks like along with my video capability to actually see what the test looks like as it runs. We're visual creatures by nature, so if I just say to you, hey, Joe, when I click on this, I got that, you're going to go, well, what does that mean? Show me the video or send me something along those lines. So here you'll see some information I'm actually entering into the trial subscription itself, my last name, the address I live at, my area code and phone number, and my and obviously my email address to subscribe against. And then there's a couple of other pieces over here. Whether I've got my reporting client turned on because I really want to see the results within the test itself. Right. So in this particular piece of Java code, I think that the four pieces that I've highlighted to you earlier on really is, again, the security token, the environment you're testing against. So if you happen to be Bank of America or Hertz, it would be hertz.perfectomobile.com or bofa.perfectomobile.com. And obviously what I want to test against in terms of browser OS combination. Again, this test really just does a responsive test to the site itself. So that's one aspect of it, the actual Java Java code itself. But to ensure that I'm testing against the correct pieces, my test.ng XML file actually specifies what tests I want to have. So for all intents and purposes, what I could do is actually just leave the iPhone 7 and the Galaxy S9, leave the rest of the code in here, come into my test.ng XML file that says what I want to test against, and comment all of the desktop browser OS combinations out, and it'll still run the test for me because this piece over here says what do I want to go test against. This piece in here says what do I want to test against in terms of best case against all my browser OS combinations. So let me just go ahead and run this test. Again, I'm in Eclipse, and I'm going to run it as a Maven test. And one of the things I want to see as it runs is I want it to go get some necessary resources. But over here it says, okay, I'm going to run your test suite. I'm going to go try and acquire sessions for Chrome, and then what you're going to see next is a lot of the print lines that I set in here, right? So I basically came in here and said, hey, you know what? When you're doing something along those lines, make sure that you actually tell me where within the code you're doing it. And the reason I do this sometimes, I know it's a little bit of an overkill for some folks, is I want to see what's actually happening as the test is running, right? So you'll see I'm actually doing a print line that says open homepage. So, and then you'll see where I'm actually saying take screenshots. And the idea here is for me to be able to sort of trace as the test is running within my IDE console environment. So you'll see that it's actually running, it's taking some screenshots, and the nice thing is I'm able to identify that, okay, so you're running it against the Win8 Chrome latest environment, right? You'll see a couple of things in here like the report URL. Don't worry about that for now, because what we want to do is we want to go back into the analytics within the Perfecto Quality Lab and see what the results were actually like when the test was concluded. I'd show you that. I'll rerun this again and actually head on into the lab to show you what the live preview looks like as this test is running. So while this is running through, I think I might be able to do that. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go back in here, close this out. So you saw where I actually went in and obtained the capabilities of the device itself, where I picked up all of the things that need to go in there. And now we're actually going to go into the test analytics, and let's see if we can catch anything. Nope, all of my tests have run to completion, which is good. If I were to look in my report library, you see that I've run it against Windows 76, 76, 77, 78, and I guess my 77, 78 is considered my latest -1, -2. You'll also see that it's run against the iPhone 7. That test is still wrapping up, and as well as the Galaxy S9. So one of the things we can certainly do is, let me go grab this one, for example. If I were to click on that particular test, you'll see the corresponding pieces where I talked about earlier on, codifying such that I can see various steps within the test itself. So in this case, I've got my open home page. I'm entering my zip code of 02110, and over here. And then I'm also looking at my subscription length. I talked about clicking on the first array in the first element within the array, and then some subscription details behind what I was actually entering. So you'll see me sending things like my address. The nice thing is being able to come back and say, well, let's see what the test actually looks like as it was running. So I'm actually going to rewind all the way in here and go ahead and play my test. So you'll see. And I think one of the things I should do as a best practice inside my Maven test, inside my Java test, is to actually add some weights, because what basically happens here is things go by a lot faster than sometimes we can visually cue. A couple of other pieces within the report library itself is the ability to look at execution, how long the test actually took to run against this particular piece of Java code that I have, what the automation framework is. I do have some tags in there to help me actually go ahead and identify the test. I'll be able to sort the test results based on some specific tags that I have, some of the variables that I have in there, the actual device itself. In this case, it was a Windows virtual machine running Windows 10 with Chrome latest -2 browser, a particular resolution, a particular location that we saw over there as well. So the nice thing is being able to look at that. And then you saw in the code earlier on where I said I wanted full report as well as video. So those things, based on my desired capability, are also captured and subsequently translated into the report library that says, hey, he wanted to be able to do a video capture, so it's turned on, so now I can actually download the file and share it with the developer or a colleague. So let's see, the Galaxy Note 9. So in this one, again, it's the same thing. You'll see that I call that particular device. The fundamental difference here is if this test didn't work, what this allows me to do is open that exact Samsung Galaxy Note 9, not a Note 9, but the exact Note 9 that the test ran on, and be able to conduct the test from a manual perspective. So what that also gives me is the capability to do some debugging that says, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and open that device if this particular test had failed. So here I've got the video capture turned on. It's actually going to go in, enter 02110. The nice thing is mobile takes a little bit of time to run. 7-day delivery, click on that first one and continue, and then basically enter my information where I want the newspaper delivered. So therein lies the test. So this piece over here is Jira. I don't have a tie into my Jira system right now. But if you wanted to create a bug in Jira, what basically happens is it would drag the test artifacts with you back into your Jira system. As you can see, I don't have that capability set up in here. I should. And then being able to download again the video files, the full reports, being able to look at the test itself. In which case, you'll see this device was Galaxy Note 9. I don't have a carrier associated with this, but if I did, all of that information would actually show up and be part of the test artifacts. So let's do this right now. Let's go back into my IDE, and let me do another run of this. And the idea here again is once that has kicked off, and I want to see sessions being acquired. Okay. Now that the sessions have been acquired, I can actually come into my live stream now, and what this is a representation of the test that is currently running and being able to say, hey, you know what, I want to see what it looks like running on that iPhone 7. So this is, again, a real device located in the UK data center, and it's actually running the test against the Boston Globe here in the US. I like to conduct these sort of tests sometimes because I want to see what the best or worst case scenario is from on far, so to speak. So again, it's able to enter a zip code. Otherwise, we would be looking at an alphanumeric postal code out of the UK. Being able to enter 7-day delivery, being able to enter some information, and again, it's the beauty of it is the phone is located not within the US. Or being able to come down and say, show me what I think that one may run through completion already. The desktop browser OS combinations do run significantly faster than some of the real devices, because obviously with the real device we've got to go acquire the device and perform a bunch of other things in the background in order to make the test successful. Let me just hide my charts for a second. So you'll see for the last 24 hours I've run 147 tests. 1% of them have failed. If I to click on that, it'll show me this one where I attempted to acquire, let's see, session aborted after 5 minutes due to user inactivity. So I can add a failure reason that says session timeout exceeded, which helps me identify what the cause is. 95% of the test pass. 1% block would be from earlier on where I was trying to get a hold of an iPhone 7 that is currently in use, and I was unable to get it. And then the unknown tests really are some of the tests that I'm running where you see it's not consistent. It says it's using a Windows 8 Chrome 1 latest, but it's actually trying to run it against an iPhone 7. So that test would absolutely not pass because of an incorrect cross-reference for browser OS combination into a device that doesn't have that capability. So real quick, let's come back and look at the code. So the quick pieces that I wanted to review with you are some of the optional stuff I put in here, like this line and this line. I mean, we could certainly remove that, but for all intent and purposes, again, it's a very simplistic, straightforward piece of Java along with the testng XML that says go ahead and run tests against these particular devices. I hope this has been useful for you, and I hope that you'll actually take a look at being able to run some of your test automations if you're running it manually, or being able to enhance your test automations by selecting additional browser OS combinations up to your license limit of desktop browser OS combination and or real devices. Okay. So, a couple of things I wanted to cover really from the perspective of what I talked about earlier on. I talked about creation, execution, lab, and analytics. What we really covered today is some of the creation and execution pieces when you think about it. So the concept behind codeless, BDD test behaviors, and quantum, and then being able to test against, when I talk about execution and lab, being able to go out and call devices, even if it's a particular device that's outside of this country, and then being able to run it against the Perfecto cloud, either against desktop browser OS combinations or mobile devices. Okay. So our commitment to the smart continuous testing solution, again, smart execution, the smart analytics. I think you saw an instance of the failed test where I can actually go in and say, tell me why the test failed, and it said it actually encountered a timeout after 10 minutes of inactivity, and then being able to come in and tag the test. And I think this is important because one of the things we're trying to do, my philosophy has always been, I want to test everything. At the end of the day, I'm not really interested in the tests that passed because they passed. I want to go figure out why a test has failed. Is it, in this case, in the case of the results that you saw, it was a session that I had open for longer than necessary and it timed out. So again, the analytics is key in terms of being able to see that test for both mobile and web from a single pane of glass. The lab, as I talked about, always up, always available, browser OS combinations. Someone stole my iPhone 7. I'm using one in the UK. And the creation piece, which is what we focused on today, is being able to use Quantum BDD along with Java to conduct your automation test, right? And so some of the pieces that we have here, smart validation. You saw where I was trying to run a browser OS combination against a mobile device, and it's going to go, no, you can't do that. Some of the things we're trying to do within the lab itself is self-heal. I think the biggest issue we find with devices, real devices, is the devices sometimes disconnect from Wi-Fi and have a hard time reconnecting. So we have capabilities now that says, hey, is a device ready? And by ready, it means it's ready to accept the command, a Selenium or Appium command, and is it capable of conducting a test? So we're starting to get a little better in terms of analytics, security, codeless Selenium, which we didn't talk about today that I've talked about previously. But I think the key piece here really is some of the validations that we saw and the ability for the device to be available. With that, we'll take some questions.
Sure. Our first question from the audience asks, does Quantum only work with Java?
That's a great question. No, fortunately, Quantum works with C# as well. So for you Visual Studio folks out there that want to use something other than Java, Quantum also works with C# as well. Great question.
All right. And the next question is, you used Eclipse as your IDE. Can we use other IDEs like IntelliJ?
The answer is yes. So if you notice at the bottom of my, let me just do a quick screen share. You notice at the bottom of my screen, I actually have a bunch of different IDEs that I actually use. So if you notice down here, I actually use WebStorm. If I'm doing Angular stuff, I use IntelliJ as well as RubyMine. So the nice thing is the Quantum framework is scalable or extensible. If you wanted to use it with something like IntelliJ, you most certainly can. Thank you. Good one.
All right, and then the last question we have time for is, does Quantum allow integration with CI tools like Jenkins and TeamCity?
Yes, we do. So the nice thing about this is, if you didn't look at my entire setup, I've written this, but one of the things I can do is save this into a Git repository, and then being able to come from inside of Jenkins and say, I want to be able to kick out this particular job, this particular piece of code that I've written from within the Git repository, and have those results pushed have those results tested with the Perfecto Quality Lab, and then having the results pull back not only into our analytics dashboard that you saw me use earlier on, but as well as having those results pull back into the Jenkins dashboard as well. So yes, we do support integration with CI tools like Jenkins and TeamCity. I think that's all I have time for. Are there any other questions?
I don't see any, and if we did miss any, we can always follow up via email after the webcast too.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Thanks for those questions. They were great. And if you need additional resources, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to show you more of what Quantum and the Perfecto solution can do for you. Thank you.